something like Bible reading, like something a lot of people strive, or they have this idea that they want to do more of. Sometimes their idea of how much is a good amount is way too much for something like that. Like maybe their goal is too much, but then they don't time it either. So like they have no clue of like, am I doing a good amount of Bible reading or not?
Yep.
Like you can stress about it when you're doing a good thing. And you don't even know how long you're doing it. Like you just feel like you should be doing it longer.
Right. Yep.
When reality is, it might be better to just set a time, maybe even spend a little less time, but just feel good. Like right now, this is what success looks like.
Exactly.
Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever.
Yep.
But not stress about it. Like, I feel like if I haven't had, 45 minutes untimed, I've not done what I'm supposed to do. But, make it actually attainable, because exactly when the timer's up. It's like, okay,
it's done.
I've done it.
Yep. And it's amazing, I was struggling with my memorization as far as reviewing it, and I was not getting what I wanted. And so I said, I'll try the timer. And so I said, okay, 5 minutes of new memory verses and 10 minutes of old review. It's just amazing how quickly that 15 minutes goes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no longer, in some ways, you could say you're getting adrenaline rush because you're running against the clock.
Most people wouldn't describe things like reading the Bible or memory verses as being an adrenaline rush, but
hey,
if you can get there, that's probably a good spot to be.
Right, yeah. and I think people do not realize the way God designed life is you have to learn to crawl first. And if you watch a baby, it takes time for it to crawl. Then it takes time to stand. It takes time to take its first step. It takes time to walk. It takes time to run.
Mm-hmm.
That's how God designed everything. And so everything has time. It takes time. And so it's the same thing with who we need to become and goals and what we want to achieve. It just takes time. And so sometimes we kill ourselves by trying to do too much, when maybe if we are just starting, baby step, right? If you never read the Bible and you want to read the Bible, don't say, I'm going to read for 4 chapters, right? You could just change the strategy and say, I'm going to read for 5 minutes. If it's 1 chapter, great. If it's 4 chapters, great. I did more, But the key is to keep increasing as the years go by.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if you were a Christian 20 years ago, you shouldn't be reading for 5 minutes. You should be have increased at least by a minute, so you should be at 25, 30 minutes now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what maturity is, right? You're crawling, but now we're walking, now you're running, you're becoming bigger and better at these things. And so that is the key, is you add little by little to grow. The tree grows that way too, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, the step by step. And I can say like myself, like growing up in the church, but then kind of reached a certain point later in teens, like college age, where I got more serious with it, feeling like, oh man, I've wasted some years, but now I'm more serious, and like wanting to be like super mature right away.
Right.
like I should be there, right? Just like this thought, like, but not realizing like, well, it takes work to get there. Feeling like just the desire itself should produce the outcome, right? But that's not how it works, right? It takes time.
Yep.
So just because somebody becomes more serious doesn't mean they're immediately where they want to be. And part of becoming mature is realizing how that maturity works.
Right. Yep. And the key is contentment, because God is the one who makes us grow. So, we can make all these plans, but God is the one who makes us grow, right?
Right. The Lord directs the step.
Yep. And so learning to be content in the process. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at any story in the Bible, Moses was 80 years old when God called him. Joseph got into leadership position when he was 30, but by the time he forgave his brother, it was probably in the 50s. But it took that long for these men to become mature. Mm-hmm. And that's how God works, is it takes time. And so part of the whole process is not to get frustrated, but enjoy the process, learning to be content, and still be driven, pushing, growing as the years go by.
Hey, thanks for watching. This clip came from an episode of our podcast, which we will have a link in the description below for you to watch the full thing, see more discussion about this topic and other topics.